In November 1922, a British archaeologist knelt before a sealed doorway in the Valley of the Kings, held up a flickering candle, and peered into a chamber that no living person had entered in over 3,000 years. What he saw inside would rewrite the story of ancient Egypt forever. But the tomb itself held more than gold. It held silence, mystery, and questions that scholars are still trying to answer today. For centuries, the Valley of the Kings have been picked apart by treasure hunters, looters, and rival archaeologists, each one convinced that everything worth finding had already been taken. Most experts believed the valley was exhausted, its secrets long since stripped away by grave robbers who had operated in the shadows for millennia. Yet, one man refused to accept that conclusion: Howard Carter, a British Egyptologist with a reputation for stubbornness bordering on obsession, had spent years searching for a tomb that history books insisted was already lost. His patron, Lord Carnarvon, had grown weary of funding an expedition that produced nothing but sand, debris, and disappointment. Carnarvon gave Carter one final season to prove his theory correct before the money ran out entirely. That final season became one of the most consequential archaeological campaigns in human history. On November 4th, 1922, a young water boy working for Carter's team stumbled upon a step cut into the rock, buried beneath centuries of debris from another excavation. Carter was summoned immediately. As his workers cleared away the sand, more steps appeared, leading downward into darkness. Within days, they had uncovered a sealed doorway stamped with the unmistakable insignia of royal necropolis seals. Carter sent an urgent telegram to Carnarvon in England, and the two men, along with Carnarvon's daughter Lady Evelyn Herbert, stood together as the final barrier was breached. What followed became one of the most quoted moments in archaeological history. As Carter's candle illuminated the chamber beyond, Carnarvon reportedly asked if he could see anything. Carter, according to his own later writings, replied that he could see wonderful things. Inside were gilded shrines, ceremonial chariots, ornate furniture, and statues coated in gold leaf, all seemingly untouched since the tomb had been sealed. This was the resting place of Tutankhamun, a minor pharaoh who had ruled for less than a decade and died as a teenager, yet whose tomb had somehow survived a wave of robberies that had emptied nearly every other royal burial in the valley. The scale of the discovery cannot be overstated. Previous tombs uncovered in Egypt had almost always been ransacked, their treasure stolen within decades or even years of the original burial. Tutankhamun's tomb, by contrast, contained more than 5,000 individual objects, many still in their original positions exactly as ancient priests had left them. Carter and his team spent nearly a decade cataloging the contents, a process so meticulous that some scholars still reference as original documentation today. Every artifact told a story about religious beliefs, daily life, diplomatic relationships, and elaborate rituals ancient Egyptians believed were necessary to guide a pharaoh into the afterlife. Yet the question that fascinated researchers most was not what the tomb contained, but why it had survived at all. Egyptologists have proposed several theories over the past century. One suggests that the tomb's small size and modest entrance, likely intended for a minor official rather than a king, caused ancient robbers to overlook it entirely. Another theory points to the physical burial of the tomb's entrance beneath debris from later construction projects in the valley, effectively hiding it from view for generations. Whatever the precise explanation, the result was extraordinary. A nearly intact royal burial that offered an unfiltered window into material culture of the New Kingdom period, roughly 1332 to 1323 BCE, when Tutankhamun is believed to have reigned. Among the objects that captured global attention was the now iconic gold funerary mask, a strikingly detailed depiction of the young pharaoh's face, inlaid with lapis lazuli, carnelian, and colored glass. This mask alone has become one of the most recognized artifacts in the world, symbolizing not just Tutankhamun himself, but the entire discipline of Egyptology. Alongside it, Carter's team uncovered nested coffins, one crafted from solid gold weighing over 100 kilograms, protecting the pharaoh's mummified remains. The sheer material wealth on display forced historians to reconsider assumptions about the resources devoted to royal burials, even for a ruler whose historical significance had previously seemed minor. But the tomb also revealed deeply human details that added emotional weight to the archaeological triumph. Among the funerary items were small wreaths of flowers, believed to have been placed by mourners, possibly Tutankhamun's young widow, Ankhesenamun. These fragile botanical remains, preserved by the arid desert climate, offered a rare and poignant glimpse into personal grief that transcended the passage of thousands of years. Researchers also found two small mummified fetuses, widely believed by many Egyptologists to be Tutankhamun's stillborn daughters, hinting at a family tragedy that added further layers to the young king's brief and turbulent life. Modern science has continued to unravel new details about Tutankhamun since Carter's initial discovery. In 2010, a team led by Egyptian archaeologist pharaohs conducted genetic testing and CT scans on the pharaoh's remains, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Their findings suggested that Tutankhamun suffered from multiple health conditions, including a bone disorder and evidence of malaria, which may have contributed to his early death. The research also indicated that his parents were likely siblings, a common practice among royal families of the era intended to preserve bloodline purity, though it may have contributed to genetic complications. These findings replaced decades of speculation, including theories that Tutankhamun had been murdered, with evidence pointing to a more complex combination of inherited illness and infection. The story of the tomb's discovery also became entangled with sensationalized claims that captured public imagination almost as powerfully as the artifacts themselves. Following Lord Carnarvon's death in April 1923, just months after the tomb was opened, media outlets around the world seized upon the idea of a curse protecting the pharaoh's resting place. Carnarvon had died from an infected mosquito bite that led to blood poisoning, a mundane medical explanation that did little to dampen public fascination with the supernatural narrative. Statistical analyses conducted decades later by researchers, including a study published in the British Medical Journal in 2002, found no significant correlation between exposure to the tomb and early death among those involved in the excavation. Most members of Carter's team lived long, unremarkable lives, further undermining the curse mythology, even as it persisted in popular culture through films, books, and tabloid journalism. What makes Tutankhamun's tomb particularly significant within the broader context of Egyptology is the way it reshaped both scholarly understanding and public engagement with ancient history. Before 1922, Egyptology remained a relatively niche academic pursuit. Carter's discovery, amplified by extensive newspaper coverage and later international touring exhibitions, transformed ancient Egypt into a subject of mainstream global fascination. The 1972 exhibition of Tutankhamun's treasures at the British Museum drew over 1.5 million visitors, and subsequent touring exhibitions throughout the United States and Europe introduced millions more to the artistry and complexity of ancient Egyptian civilization. Contemporary research continues to build upon Carter's foundational work. Advanced imaging technology, including radar scans conducted in recent years, has explored the possibility of hidden chambers adjacent to Tutankhamun's burial site, though results have remained inconclusive and debated among specialists. Some researchers, including British Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves, have proposed that portions of the tomb may connect to an undiscovered burial, possibly belonging to Queen Nefertiti, though this theory remains speculative and has not been confirmed through physical excavation. The scientific community continues to approach such claims with appropriate caution, emphasizing the need for verified evidence over sensational headlines. The preservation of Tutankhamun's tomb ultimately offers something far more valuable than gold or jewels. It offers continuity, an unbroken thread connecting modern researchers to beliefs, fears, and hopes of people who lived more than 3 millennia ago. Every object within that chamber, from elaborate ceremonial objects to simple wilted flowers, represents an attempt by ancient people to honor life, mourn loss, and imagine what might exist beyond death. Carter's discovery did not simply uncover treasure. It uncovered a moment frozen in time, a testament to how deeply human the impulse to remember and honor the dead has always been. As excavation techniques and scientific analysis continue to evolve, researchers remain committed to studying Tutankhamun's tomb with increasing precision, always balancing the excitement of discovery with the responsibility of preserving irreplaceable history. What began as one archaeologist's refusal to abandon a seemingly hopeless search became one of the defining moments in the study of human civilization. More than a century later, the tomb still speaks, not through gold alone, but through the quiet, enduring reminder that history survives not because it is indestructible, but because someone, somewhere, was determined enough to keep looking.